And we are back on Professional Wrestling, the podcast with Timur, Jonathan. By day, real estate corporate lawyers at Kormans LP. By night, wrestling analysts, professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. I know today we said we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the recap of SummerSlam 2023. On a side note, I know we don't always talk about AEW, but the Jericho Appreciation Society imploded a couple weeks back. And I got to say, saddens me greatly. But on that note, there's one guy I'd like to see him come back to WWE and see that pop. It would definitely have to be Chris Jericho, but they'd have to play Breaking Down the Walls.
Yeah, 100%. It's just and what's going to happen, obviously, right? Like just Chris Jericho is a very smart business person. He is one of the best business minds out there. It made sense for him to do what he did, to go to AEW, right? Because just that amazing run he had with Kevin Owens near the end of his last WWE run, that was just some he just kind of, and that's not the first time he's done it. He knows how to reinvent himself, right? Doesn't get stale. So again, it's another saying from Jim Cornette, like him leaving the WWE and then eventually when he does come back will have such a big impact because how can someone miss you if you don't go away, right? So yeah, I think by the time may not be for maybe a year, 2 years, but it, if people like Sting are still wrestling in their early 60s at this point, late 50s at least,
60s, 60s. Yeah.
60s, yeah, taking like table bumps and ladder bumps. I can see Jericho doing it for at least another 4 or 5 years at least. Yeah.
Did you know who Darby Allin used to be married to, by the way? We're talk about Sting.
No.
He you remember Toxic Attraction?
Toxic
The
Attraction.
tag team with
Yes.
Mandy Rose,
Yes.
the orange hair lady by the name of
Oh
Gigi
yeah.
Dolan, who in
Okay.
real life was married to Darby Allin, so they met up. It makes sense with that punk look, right? They
Yeah.
had a quick courtship, they got married, they got divorced, but they're apparently still like the best of friends and everything else. But Darby Allin and Gigi Dolan, so the wonderful
Wow.
world of wrestling, you never ever know who's gonna
Yeah.
fall in love. So now we talked about you have to miss them for them to come back. And I get a lot of hate on social media for this one because one person who I'm kind of sick of his theme song already and the whole thing is Cody Rhodes. I respect Cody Rhodes for who he is, loved him in AEW, like the shtick with Brandy. It was the whole thing, like it's getting stale. It comes out, there's the same theme song, and he's like, so what do you want to talk about? Constantly got to finish stories. The man is all about storytelling and finishing stories. And so I got excited when he's back, but now it's just like he's kind of just looking for something to do. That's what it kind of feels like. He's just kind of there. Now he's still gonna go back to Dom and keep fighting out with Judgment Day for a bit. But for as much as I'm kind of on the fence about it, I have to say in person, watching him against Brock Lesnar, the trilogy, I think it got executed really well. I really like this match from beginning to end. I think they did a good job, and I really, really respected Brock for passing the torch to Cody. I think it was a cool move.
Yeah, amazing match, first of all, right? Great storytelling, great psychology. Um, the only reason I guess it didn't go first was because Logan Paul had to go halfway across the country to watch his brother box Nate Diaz.
But you
Otherwise,
knew Brock was not going to be hanging around all night.
yeah,
Brock
yeah,
needed
yeah,
to get
yeah.
out of there early.
Yeah, Brock was like, hey, if I'm not going first, I'm definitely going second. Because Brock had that plane on the runway ready to go even before the event started. But yeah, no, amazing match, and I kind of do agree with you. I've never just I just never got into the Cody Rhodes babyface act here in WWE. Like, yeah, it made sense to bring him back like that, I guess, right? Um, but I think they met like again. I am glad that they didn't pull the gun on him dethroning Roman at this year's WrestleMania, right? But if you had like that was the time to do it. Like the momentum is done now. I mean, yeah, he does get like a big. It's a big notch in his belt, I guess. Winning the feud with Brock because it was a 2-1 win, and then Brock doing what he did at the end of the match, which was for all intents and purposes unscripted. That's even better, right? Um, but that's I think Brock doing that more so may have a bigger impact backstage as opposed to in terms of like storyline and for that intent. Like I don't see that having a big impact like that's I mean, going back like 20 years, to two events. One, both involving Undertaker actually. One, if you recall, him and Jeff Hardy had this amazing match, right? For I think it was for the hardcore title, right? And then Undertaker like raised his hand up at the end, and that kind of like fans obviously were already starting to get behind Jeff at that point, right?
Hmm.
But I think people backstage kind of saw that as well, and Jeff started getting that push, and then John Cena, after kind of beating Kurt Angle, and then backstage everyone congratulating him, and then Undertaker comes and kind of shakes his hand. So this is kind of, if you look at this, obviously Cody's not that young of a guy. Like he's what is he in his late 30s at this point, early 40s
I think
maybe.
he's 40s. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
yeah. So it's not like he's not like a young guy on the come up, but this push, sorry, this action from Brock Lesnar at the end, I don't see the have like the fans already kind of just see Cody one way or the other, but I think backstage, because Brock doesn't do this for everyone, right? So backstage, it may gain Cody more respect. But in terms of storyline purposes, I don't really see much difference from it happening unless WWE kind of starts making a point of it, which again, like when they try to push something organic, um, inorganically, fans turn on that really fast. So I don't think it would be in Cody's advantage for WWE to kind of bring, maybe once in a while you can mention it, but if they, if Michael Cole is week after week mentioning, oh, this, and then Brock Lesnar showed his respect, and this man earned Brock Lesnar respect, that's gonna get like old really fast.
So what do you do now with Brock Lesnar? Do you do anything
Oh,
with him?
yeah. No, I don't. I think Brock Lesnar I mean, I think he's part of. I would like to believe he's gone for at least a couple months, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I the thing is, look, physically, this guy can go on for another like 10 years. Like, just he's like the apex predator, right? So it's just that, does he want to, right? It was just a hint of him basically saying, "Hey, I'm on the way out. Like, I'm on my last run." If that's the case, then the person to retire him is Gunther. Like, that doesn't, right?
I was just about to say that. I was just
Yeah,
about to say that. Yes, yes, yes.
but
That
but
that's the
then
only guy. That's the only guy that makes sense possibly to retire Brock is Gunther.
yes, but when does now in order for now Gunther, because Brock has never fought for any title other than world title, right? So I don't think he really cares about the Intercontinental title at this stage of his career. Like he doesn't need that. Um, and Gunther, like we said, eventually, like we've said in the past, and I think this is something that we'll be discussing again in future episodes. Like he's one of those people on that very short list of possibly dethroning Roman Reigns, right? So between that time and he has to lose his IC title, right? I don't see him just dropping it. I think he will lose it, right? In the last episode, we said Chad Gable, maybe someone who's doing that. So I guess I guess what makes sense from a storyline perspective is Gunther loses that IC title to Chad Gable or whoever after he breaks the record, right? And in order for him to gain that legitimacy before he goes on to face Reigns, maybe at either he wins the Battle Royal, or sorry, either he wins the Royal Rumble this year, or if he doesn't, what's even better than winning the Royal Rumble is being the one who retires Brock Lesnar, and then after that, telling Roman Reigns, "Hey, I'm coming for you. Like I retired Brock Lesnar, and now I'm coming for you."
I'm seeing these parallels here. I've had some ideas going through my mind as you were talking. So here's how I'm going to propose this. I see this. Now, I've never said this before, but the way you're going to get the belt off Gunther is like this. You're going to have a kayfabe injury.
Mm-hmm.
He breaks the record, kayfabe injury. So we're just going to have a tournament to vacate it in his absence.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to come back. He's going to say, this is unacceptable. I'm the ring general, and this is against the sacredness of the mat. So the way you're going to do this is you're going to have him versus Brock. Winner faces Roman in WrestleMania. And of course, he's going to beat Brock, retire Brock. He'll have so much momentum going into there, and then he beats Roman Reigns at the end.
Possibly, yeah, like that may happen because, like, look, Brock Lesnar, um, on his last last two years from all the stories we've heard, like he's much better influence backstage,
Yes.
right? Like putting in time, giving positive feedback, right?
If you paid me $1
So
million an episode to come in and do an appearance, I would be that much of a good influence too, Timur.
yeah,
Okay.
probably exactly, right? So if we were talking a few years ago, I was like, there's no way Brock's losing two feuds in a row, right?
Mhm.
Like he just put Cody over big time. There's no he's coming back and then losing to Gunther as well, unless he is retiring, right? But I'm just it's just like from a storyline perspective, it makes sense for Gunther to retire him. Just the shape that Brock's in, just what he's able to do still. I just don't see why, and the money they're willing to pay him, right? Um, like just like we mentioned last week, we have people like Sting like taking table bumps in their 60s. Brock just is in the prime shape. He's like, like just why would you retire when you're still on the top of your game? And they're willing to pay you, just right. So just that part of it doesn't make sense to me,
When you live
and
in a
that's why.
farm, when you live in a farm in Saskatchewan with Sable, okay, and you already are worth like $50 million, how many more cattle farms do you need? How many more plows do you need? Like at the end of the day, look, think how much money he could have made if Sable had continued. And he told Sable, I want you at home. I don't want you parading around here because I don't think this is the best environment for a married couple. So Brock comes in, fights, leaves. So I don't think money's motivating that much. And if there's anybody I would pay money to watch face Brock in wrestling right now, it's only Gunther. That's the only matchup I want. I don't want anybody else, possibly. Don't give me Wardlow. Don't give me Madcap Moss. Don't give me Otis. I only want to see Gunther face against Brock Lesnar, and that's it. And I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, and I think they did have a little bit of a official run in with each other at the Royal Rumble this year.
They did.
And if you notice, like Gunther looks small compared to Brock, so not many people can say that, right? But
But he
yeah,
held his own. He held his own.
yeah.
So we go from that match now. We had a couple of funny stipulation matches. One of them being the feature match of the night at SummerSlam 2023, and that was the tribal combat match between
Mhm.
Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. I expected that there was gonna be a bunch of people from the bloodline there. All the Samoans would be there. They were not. We had the Jimmy appearance, which we expected. We had the turn. This is getting really stale and getting really, really boring for me. And I'm kind of over this. I'm really happy to hear that Jey is done with SmackDown. He's done with the bloodline. He's done with the WWE. Deuces, ooses, gone.
Mhm.
Bye bye. See you later. I'm good with this. Figure out what you can do with Jimmy. And the match I want is Solo versus Roman. And we're going to keep this thing going.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a way for them to extend um this whole like inner tribal conflict over the last few months, and I see it happening for another few months. Just with everything that's gonna happen. It's just a way to add more days to Roman's reign, right? Because they are gonna at this point they are taking it to WrestleMania next year. There's no way they're ending it this year, right? So what I see happening, yeah, Jimmy maybe sorry Jay might be gone for maybe a month at tops at best, right? There's gonna be some sort of stipulation where he comes back. And if you notice, right, obviously like you had Reigns and Solo kind of facing off a bit last time.
Yeah.
So I can see and the reasoning Jimmy gave for helping for turning again. Well, technically he said he didn't turn against his brother. The reason he did it because he didn't want him to turn into Roman after he became tribal chief, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
I do see the story. I'll be very surprised because this is the only way for them to add more time to this. And at this point now you've seen a brother against brother and cousin against cousin. I would be surprised if in the next couple of months we don't see a fatal four-way between all of them for tribal chief because like Jay's already challenging for it. Solo's kind of already hinted that he wants to do it, right? So Jimmy can come back and say that, hey, okay, why not me, right? Kind of if you're all doing for it, why not me, right? And I can see if you recall like from 20 more than 20 years ago that WrestleMania main event a McMahon with a McMahon in every corner, right? So here you have like a and Uso, I guess Samoa and Hanoi in each corner, and you go and also and yeah, Roman's gonna win at the end again, right? Um, and I still think yeah, if they're like if they don't do Cody, then Solo's someone who still has to get a shot, and this might be a way to build him up, right? Further. I just and then yeah, Paul Heyman, he's turned on his clients in the past, so he can possibly see the ship sinking in the rains, and we know Solo is a mouthpiece at this point, right? So Paul Heyman comes in, fills in that part perfectly as he did for Brock over all these years. Because Reigns technically does not really need a mouthpiece, but just having that Paul Heyman rub doesn't hurt, right? So I just don't see from a marketing perspective, right? Because you always have to think that now with WWE over since they became publicly traded company, right? Like I can't see Solo doing the morning show, all of that stuff, right? That's the only thing that kind of um, prevents me from thinking that he's going to beat Reigns is that part of it because they have to always keep that angle in mind now as well, right?
If Solo wins it in the future, so first of all, I see the tribal elders coming and taking away the whole tribal chief thing, so that's no longer going to be a factor because unless Roman is a tribal chief, this tribal chief thing is not going to work on any level. Unless The Rock comes back, and he ain't. Here's your storyline there. Whenever a big champion loses and he loses to someone else, that person often is what's called a transitional champion, right? Solo transitional champion, Paul Heyman turns on Solo with his new client, Braun Breaker, who now goes by Braun Steiner. And he's the perfect guy we talked about for Paul Heyman to manage. He needs him desperately. He needs his Brock Lesnar 2.0 style, Scott Steiner 2.0 guy. Braun Breaker's your guy, comes in, obliterates Solo, breaks his thumb, and takes the belt. Paul Heyman wins out. That's the way I see that going. 1,000%. It's coming.
Okay, yeah, that's something you can see next year after WrestleMania.
I should be writing for WWE. They totally should be calling, and I'd be happy to lend my services. Hey, not $1 million an episode. Just give me $1 million a year. I'm happy to do it. U.S. funds, no problem. But seriously, it's like you think of these kind of storylines, and you're like, why can't they do this? It's not that difficult. Just spread it out over a few weeks. Here's the way you go. But it feels like because remember, a lot of people that are writing for them apparently are not wrestling writers. They hire actual writers, and and you have the writers' strike as well. But you're bringing like Hollywood type writers, and they're used to writing for what? Walking Dead. This is kind of like Walking Dead, but not really. So I miss the days when wrestling writers wrote wrestling and it was actually wrestling type things because this feels like some sort of soap opera. And they're like, no, let's just do it all together. Like this is not Days of Our Lives where you just kill off the character and just recast them. But that's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So from one unexciting match to another, this is where I shined on that night at Ford Field. I got some high fives around in the crowd. So, you have a match and it's called the bathroom break match. It's the dog walking match. It's the I got to take something out of the oven match. This was definitely the Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey in fake MMA rules match. Timur, I have never seen a legion of people leave an arena for the bathroom and the concessions the way they did for this match. The stadium was emptying out like there was no tomorrow. First of all, when Baszler and Rousey walk down to the ring, they have a competition to see how can we walk as least feminine as possible. They got this kind of arm dragging kind of scowls on their face, right? So you can see that evidently. By the way, I am a big fan of Shayna Baszler. I think she's extremely talented. I think that Ronda Rousey, has a name recognition clearly. She was on TV as an actress, blah, blah. But we're all very kind of happy to see her go because she's not great on the mic. She's not really great in the ring. She's stiff out there. She put over Baszler. At least she tried to. So we're sitting there in the arena, right? I've already tried one chant before. It started a little bit, but it didn't go very far, right? So they're in the middle of this match and people are just groaning. And people all around, when is this going to end? And I break out the This is boring. This is boring. And the whole arena filled with this is boring. I felt so bad for Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. I am so sorry, ladies, but it was so funny. It was really boring. I don't know what you planned out there, but it did not work for you whatsoever. This was not the setting. This was not the match. If you're going to do this, either have a real MMA fight in a proper octagon. I'm all for that. Or have a wrestling match and do something with it and make it exciting. They were just literally grappling. Nobody could tell what the heck was going on. And Timur, was it that bad on TV as it was in the arena?
I couldn't tell you because I didn't do
Were
I
you
this was
walking the
my
dog at the time?
this was my go check the mail match, right? So go check the mail, like just
Set your clothes for the next day, meal
exactly,
prep, whatever you gotta do.
like this I missed the match, but I don't think I'm like, I really didn't miss anything. Just and Ronda Rousey, just I was never a fan. Never a fan in UFC, never a fan in WWE, just doesn't have the right attitude, like a sore loser. And just, wasn't willing, just she wanted everything handed to her, when he came to WWE. And yeah, makes sense, right? She has that legit fighting background. So, she has the skills. So obviously, yes, it makes sense for them to go put the belt on her when she came, right? Because yes, she's legit badass. Like she can take on like five of these women at once, right? But just like you have to be willing to put in the work in building the character. Like um wrestling fans, they don't like it when someone gets the belt right away, right? That part of it I didn't have an issue with, right? Like she's legitimate. If you put the belt on her, that's great. But you have to put in the effort on the entertainment part of it too, right? The character part of it.
Connect with the fans, either good or bad, right?
Yeah. Just like but she, wrestling insiders call it X-Pac heat, right? Where just like people just don't care, and that's where she was kind of in there. Yeah.
But I don't get you remember the show that the Mark Wahlberg show with Turtle? What was that show called? Not
Entourage,
Baller.
entourage.
Entourage, right. I was thinking
Yeah,
Ballers, but Ballers was the
yeah,
rock version of
yeah, yeah,
Entourage,
yeah,
which
yeah,
was Entourage in a football setting,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah,
But remember Entourage when she was dating Turtle?
yeah, yeah,
I like that Ronda Rousey. She was relatable.
yeah,
Why did she stop going to acting school? If she could
yeah,
have kept her acting lessons going, because she's really stiff on the mic in WWE.
yeah,
She
yeah,
talks like she did not practice her lines at all. And it just doesn't come out with any emotion. So problem is I don't believe her as an actress. And so she's acting, talking, and she's acting, fighting. Mason Rush, my new protege client. I'm now, by the way, managing a professional wrestler, just so you know. So
okay.
out of Hamilton Pro Wrestling, Mason Rush, and he calls wrestling acting, play, fighting, bodybuilding. So she's acting, fighting, but she's not acting very convincingly. She doesn't talk it, and then she's just really stiff in the ring. Like you think Shayna would spend more time showing her the moves, but she has to make a decision. Am I an MMA fighter? Am I a WWE for performer? I can't be both. And I feel like she's trying to combine the two, and it's all working. So let her take her millions, figure out what she's gonna do. I say go back to Hollywood. You know what? By all means, I think she has a future there, but I think this part is done. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and sayonara, don't let the door hit you on the way out, I guess.
No, but if you ever want to jump for dinner and talk about Ronda, I'd be happy to do that. And it's all constructive criticism out of love, not hate. It's not working. We're sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're okay with getting caught in an armbar because she might get pissed, then yeah.
That doesn't scare me. So it's all good. I'm funny that way. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, our final match of SummerSlam 2023. Finn Balor, one of my favorites. I wish he'd play his old theme song. I don't get the whole JD McDonough. I am in the group. I'm in the group. I'm not in the group. I am Judgment Day. I'm not Judgment Day. And I gotta get back to Seth Rollins, but it was so obvious I'm gonna lose. But Damian Priest is gonna interfere, but he's not gonna interfere. Again, it was way too obvious. He was definitely not gonna win. It's a shame. I'm looking forward to when Damian Priest does get his belt. And then I'm looking forward to Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. That interests me.
Yeah. That just and I mean, I'm pretty sure we're headed that way, right, in the next month or so. Um, but it's just yeah, like Balor. I mean, just he just kind of lost in the shuffle, right? Over the last few years. So Judgment Day was a good way to kind of bring the focus back on him. But I think that's kind of served its purpose too now, right? Um, I, I don't see Seth holding on to that title much longer. Right? It made sense. It had to be him, obviously. That's the first champion. That part made sense, right? But just
It was more like a
yeah,
participation ribbon.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you've been
yeah,
around enough here. Everybody gets a ribbon at some point. So it's
yeah,
the Nikki ASH title, but
yeah, yeah,
that title had very little meaning. I think once he loses it, it'll have more meaning.
yeah, exactly, right? So,
So we agree,
and
Damian
yeah.
Priest is our future. This one is the heavyweight championship,
I don't
right?
know, well, I don't know, I call it the B championship, but yeah, because just I mean, the whatever the championship that matters is the one that Reigns has right now, or whichever whichever one of his three belts is
Oh
the
no, no, no,
is
no,
the
no! They
yeah,
they took away
yeah.
the other two belts now. He only wears
Oh,
the
they
one.
okay, only Paul Heyman got tired, I guess, right?
But you
Yeah,
gotta love how AW followed this along because then CM Punk came out with his championship.
right,
And
right,
he's like, you know what? I never lost the belt. So this is the
yeah,
real championship. It's the Saturday Night Collision championship. Man, I love how they copy each other, but you know what? I'm okay with that. And he also spray painted it. It's cool. You know what? It's all good. But the Seth Rollins championship is boring. The
yeah,
Seth Rollins sing along with the Shinsuke sing along with the Cody Rhodes sing along. No more sing alongs. I'm exhausted. No more. No more.
yeah, yeah. So it just yeah, Damian Priest well, I definitely see him getting that belt, right? And yeah, I don't see Finn beating um Seth for it, right? So I can see, like Finn causing issues for Damian, but
Mhm.
Damian probably still gets it. And then there's a feud there. He has the perfect first feud after winning with Finn Balor, right? And then and I think we'll talk about this in a later episode in a few weeks. Just because if Cody's not the one dethroning Roman, then that's probably the belt that he'll go after maybe in the new year, right?
Maybe, but the one guy I'll say, like Damian Priest, highly, highly underrated. Like Finn Balor had his time to shine. You know, he had his whole thing. You know, he got squashed by Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. You know, when he had his championship. But look, at the end of the day, I don't think Finn's winning many more championships at this point. I think he's a mid carder, but they'll make him interesting. They got to do a little bit of a turn here. But Damian Priest, I mean, he earned his stripes. He gave it up to Bad Bunny. You know, he did his time. Gold is coming to Damian Priest. Mark my words. No doubt about it. He's cashing in and winning it 10,000%. Period.
Yep.
So we'll keep that tone for next week. And as promised, next week, we're going to talk about Roman a little more. I know it's the bloodline, but the time is coming and someone's going to be beating Roman. So we're going to be telling you how it's going to be. Stay tuned on Professional Wrestling, the podcast.